Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to share and subscribe the channel. You shouldn't be here. The voice came from the shadows beyond the crystalline canopy, soft, melodic, and cool like a breeze sliding across frozen glass. Damon returned, hands still dusted in red mineral dirt. He didn't need to see her too. No. Her presence always felt like a shift in gravity, like the air itself stood still to listen. "I could say the same about you," he replied, not hiding the grin tugging at his lips. Naali stepped into view. Moonlight from the twin orbs above lit her silver-toned skin and made her long hair shimmer like woven light. A sheer veil clung to her shoulders, catching the wind in ripples that whispered like an alien lullaby. Her eyes, once pale violet, were darker now, a color shift that meant something between curiosity and pleasure in her species. He'd learned that from watching her more than any database. "You smell like decay," she said with a playful wrinkle of her nose. "That's what happens when you actually work for a living." He chuckled. "Soil's alive, especially on this planet Irith-7, isn't like Earth." "I know." Naali took another step closer. "You told me 3 nights ago while I was in your bed." His grin faded, but not from discomfort. Her words always carried too much truth to be ignored. It had started as fascination. Now he wasn't sure what it was, only that it was real, dangerous, and he didn't care. "I can't stop thinking about you," Damon admitted, voice low. "Even when I'm working the fields or analyzing nutrient density, your name's there, pressed between every thought like a signature I can't erase." She touched a finger to his lips. "Don't explain. Words shrink things. This doesn't fit in a sentence." Silence fell, thick and magnetic. The biodome around them buzzed faintly with life, machines humming, soft-leafed plants rustling, but in that moment, none of it mattered. There was only her, only him, and the pole that neither of them could deny. Before Naali, Damon had simply been another Earthling assigned to a job in alien territory, an ecologist sent to assist the Velian Empire with sustainable agriculture, part of the diplomatic exchange program following first contact. Earth had only been accepted into the interstellar Concord a few years earlier, and human presence on Irith-7 was tightly monitored. He wasn't a soldier, a diplomat, or a hero, just a scientist trying to make a difference. Then she walked into his exhibit during a research conference, a daughter of the Dominion's High Chancellor, wearing the ceremonial badge of a Velian noble. She should have glanced past him uninterested. Instead, she stopped, asked questions, smiled at his awkward attempt to speak her language, and lingered. After that, everything changed. Their meeting started formally, discussing agriculture, ecological programming, terraforming techniques. Then came encrypted messages, brief, often poetic, and always from her. The night she showed up outside his dome, unannounced, soaked in starlight, she said only, "Show me how you live." And he let her. In what followed was a rush neither of them expected. Nights became charged. Talks turned intimate. The boundaries that kept their species apart blurred. Her laughter became his compass, his voice became her anchor. They explored each other like galaxies no map had dared touch. He showed her Earth music, old jazz, acoustic blues, wordless ambient tracks. She taught him how Velians painted emotion into glass, how they told stories through light and movement rather than sound. They danced once, barefoot, in the glow of bioluminescent moss when she read him an Earth poem one night, her accent turning the words soft and strange. She paused at the line, "We loved with a love that was more than love." "It hurts," she whispered, "even though it's beautiful." Why he kissed her instead of answering, he wondered. She was unlike anyone he'd ever known, not because she was Verelian, but because she saw him not as a visitor, not as a man of Earth, but as Damon. And he saw her not as the Chancellor's daughter or an alien mystery, but as nigh, wild, clever, brave, alive. Still, she was more than just herself. Her lineage was ancient, her title made her a figure of worship in some provinces, a political tool in others. Her birth under the cycle of azure fire granted her a revered status Damon hadn't fully understood until it was too late. And yet she kept returning. Abandoned observation towers, forgotten research tunnels, and windswept cliffs on the dome's edge became their sanctuaries. Her scent lingered on his clothes. His fingers memorized every path across her skin. But it wasn't just about desire, it was the weight of what they were building, a bond too fragile to explain, too strong to ignore. He learned her fears, the expectations crushing her future, the dread of being just another symbol. She learned his shame, his world's endless greed, the scars of wars fought for water and sky. They didn't pretend to be saviors, they were just people lost and found in each other. One night, she whispered, "I don't want to be someone's legacy. I want to be someone's choice." Without hesitation, he said, "You're mine." The next day, a flower appeared outside his living quarters. Not just any flower, a Velian black orchid, rare, symbolic, and used only in mourning rituals. A flower that bloomed on graves, someone knew. That night, she came to him with fury in her eyes and sorrow in her voice. "My father has spies everywhere. They've always known, but no one's moved against us yet." "He's waiting," Damon said grimly. "Studying us like a trap waiting to spring. I'll fight if it comes to that." "You shouldn't have to." She laughed, a soft, broken sound. "You're still so human. You think you protect love by shielding it, I protect it by burning everything else away." But doubt had begun to settle inside him. It started small, a shadow in the back of his mind. Was she using him to rebel? Was this a game for her? A thrill, was he deluding himself with dreams of something permanent? Then she'd kiss him, and every question would melt. He thought about running, taking her away to a Terran embassy or a hidden port on the edge of Varelian territory. He started checking ship schedules, weighing escape routes. Still, the fear stayed. When the night of their fall arrived, it felt like every other. She arrived late. Rain mist sparkled in her hair, her breaths were shallow. "I think they're closing in. There were guards near my pod." He should have panicked. Instead, he kissed her like it was the first time, like it was the last. They made love slowly, desperately, like two people writing their goodbye with their bodies. Afterwards, wrapped in the thin sheets beneath the dome's transparent ceiling, he turned to her and said, "Let's run." Her answer never came because the explosion tore through the air a moment later. The outer entrance of his pod disintegrated in a blast of light and sound, alarms blared, sirens screamed through the biodome, glass fractured, the door slammed open. 6 armored figures stormed in. Naali sat up, her eyes glowing with fury. "I came willingly." They ignored her, weapons were raised with no hesitation. Damon moved toward her, reaching but not fast enough. There was a flash of white, then darkness, and everything changed. Pain came first, a dull throb in the skull, followed by a roaring in the ears, then voices. Cold, clipped, filtered through something synthetic. "Subject has regained consciousness. Prepare restraint." Damon groaned, struggling against the fog in his mind. His body felt numb, heavy. He tried to move, arms, legs, nothing obeyed. Then the restraint field sparked softly around his wrists, invisible bands, Varelian tech. He opened his eyes, sterile white light, seamless walls, a room too clean, too quiet. He knew where he was, an orbital holding cell high above Irith 7, a prison for political inconveniences. There was no window, no clock, just the humming of energy barriers and the faint chill of artificial air. His throat burned. "Naali?" No answer. Panic bloomed. What had they done to her? Why wasn't she here? Was she even alive? He screamed her name again, louder this time, thrashing against the restraints, still nothing. Then, hours, or maybe days, later, the door finally hissed open. 2 figures entered. One wore the obsidian and emerald robes of a Velian counselor, the other, a black-cloaked official whose face was hidden by a shifting, mirrored mask. The voice that followed chilled him to the bone. "You've brought disgrace to yourself and insulted the sanctity of our house." It wasn't the masked one, it was the robed figure. Tall, regal, with eyes like stormlight. High Chancellor Varayan, Naali's father. Damon swallowed. He wasn't stupid, he had known this moment might come. But he hadn't expected the Chancellor to come personally. "I love her," Damon said, simply and defiantly. Varayan's gaze didn't flicker. "That word means little in your tongue. Do you even comprehend the gravity of what you've done?" "Yes," Damon said. "I do. You infiltrated the lineage of the sovereign bloodline. That's not love. That's an act of war." Damon's heart pounded. "I never used her. I never lied. She came to me. She wanted," the Chancellor raised a hand, silencing him. "I know what my daughter wants, but she is bound by prophecy. She was born under the flame eclipse. She is to be wed to the House of Idrin in 2 cycles' time. Your intrusion has thrown generations of alliance into jeopardy." Damon stared at him. "She's not a bargaining chip." Varayan turned away, stepping toward the wall where an embedded panel showed starfields drifting lazily across the orbital path. "Your species has always confused desire with destiny. You came to this world claiming diplomacy. You brought sickness, chaos, and now, this." Damon gritted his teeth. "You can't stop love, Chancellor. Not with bloodlines, not with threats." The masked figure finally spoke. Its voice, synthesized and strange, declared, "The human's mind should be neutralized. Wiped. Standard protocol." "No." The Chancellor's word cracked like thunder. "I want him to remember every moment of her. I want the memory to break him every time he closes his eyes." Damon felt a cold crawl up his spine. Varayan stepped closer again. "You will be sent back to Earth with the disgraced tattoo. Our people will know your scent, your voice, your shame. You will never again walk on Velian soil, nor in her presence." "No," Damon whispered. "No, you can't, I already have." Then Varayan turned and walked out. The door sealed, and Naali never came. He didn't sleep on the journey back. The transport ship was dim and cold, its crew silent. The disgrace tattoo they'd mentioned wasn't visible, it was neural, a marker burned into his identity, a signature. Anyone in the interstellar grid could scan it and see the words, "Offender of royal blood." No trial, no appeal. Back on Earth, everything felt gray. He tried returning to the ecological program, but the agency kept its distance. Whispers followed him, his clearance was revoked, project leads were reassigned. Within 3 months, he was unofficially blacklisted from every joint alien-human program in the sector. They hadn't just exiled him, they'd erased him. He moved to a quieter district in the Cascadia Rewild Zone, far from cities and trade routes. There he worked as a manual soil engineer, anonymously fixing hydroponic systems for off-grid farms. Every day blurred into the next, nights became long, cold, and every star reminded him of her. He still remembered how her voice sounded when she laughed, how she kissed the corner of his mouth before speaking, how her eyes glowed when she was angry, stormed, dark, and alive. He thought of reaching out, but even the thought of sending a message made his body ache. She was beyond his reach. Now the months crawled by. Then one night, everything changed again. He was walking the perimeter fence of a grow, boots crunching against the gravel, when a shimmer of light sparked in the air like heat off metal but more controlled. A cloaked figure appeared in the darkness. His breath caught at the movement, the shape, too familiar to be anything else. Naali. The figure pushed back the hood. It wasn't her, but it was someone who bore the same eyes, paler, maybe younger, sharper. "You are Damon Rhee?" the girl asked. He nodded, stunned. "I am Terra. I was Naali's sister." You must come with me now. Wait, his heart stilled. No, she was taken away from the capital weeks after your exile, hidden, forced into stasis sleep. They told everyone she had fled, but I found her, I released her. Damon's mind spun. Where is she now? She's on Earth. That was how he found himself in a small cave near the remnants of the Olympic range, standing beneath a holographic shield that blurred them from satellite view. The moment she stepped into the cave, he stopped breathing. She looked tired. Her silver hair had been cut short. Her ceremonial robes replaced with Earth-style leathers. Her skin bore faint lines, now, stress etched into beauty. But her eyes, they still burned. She didn't run to him, she didn't speak at first. She just stared, as if trying to believe he was real. Then she reached up slowly and touched his face. I thought I lost you, she whispered. He grabbed her hand and pressed it to his chest. Never. I'm still yours. Tears welled in her eyes, and she pulled him into her arms. For the first time in a year, he let himself cry. They stayed like that for hours, sitting on the cave floor, tangled together, speaking in half-sentences and touches. She told him everything, how her father had tried to recondition her, how she'd fought sedatives, how her sister Tara, a lesser-known royal, had quietly defied the Chancellor's orders. I knew you'd be watching the stars, Naali whispered. So I learned Earth's skies. I studied its spin. I used the constellations to find you. He held her tighter. I dreamed about you, she said. In my sleep, in my waking hours, I saw you in every breath. He laughed softly. I started talking to shadows. Kept thinking maybe you'd appear if I stared long enough. They kissed again, and it wasn't like the last kiss, the desperate one. It was new, filled with everything they still had left to feel. But reality was waiting. They both knew it. Your father won't stop, Damon said. I know, they'll come for you. Naali's jaw tightened. Then let them, but they'll find me with you. He shook his head. You'll lose everything. She smiled. I already have, but if I have you, I have more than I ever did in the palace. He looked at her like she was a miracle, and maybe she was. I'm scared, he admitted. Good, she said, leaning her forehead against his. That means you still believe we have something to lose, and that means it's real. Their future was uncertain. But for that night in that hidden cave under alien stars, two people from different worlds held each other like gravity had been rewritten. The rain fell softly outside the cave, a delicate mist that clung to the trees and stone like a whisper from the sky. Inside, the warmth of the fire crackled, casting flickering shadows across the walls. Damon watched Naali sleep beside him, curled against his chest as if afraid the world might tear them apart again. He didn't close his eyes. He couldn't, not after everything. She was back, but for how long? They both knew her father's influence reached even into the clouds above Earth. It wasn't a matter of if they'd come, it was when. Still, Damon refused to live in fear. Not now, not when she had risked everything to return. When morning came, she stirred, eyes blinking open with that quiet glow he had missed so much. She smiled sleepily, a small, shy thing, as if the night before had been a dream and she was afraid to ask if it had been real. It's morning, she said softly. I know, Damon whispered, brushing her silver hair behind her ear. And you're still here. She leaned up and kissed him lightly, like a promise. Then came the voice, I wish I could let you two keep playing house, but we don't have time for long goodbyes. Tara stepped into the cave with her cloak dripping from the rain. Her expression was tight. Her eyes flicked to Damon, then to her sister. They've sent a shadow envoy. It crossed Earth's stratosphere 5 hours ago. Naali's jaw clenched. He's moving faster than we thought. Damon stood. What's a shadow envoy? Tara glanced at him. An elite retrieval unit. No insignia, no oversight, they don't negotiate. They extract. His blood ran cold. Then we need to run. No, Naali said firmly. We need to make them understand. Tra raised an eyebrow. You really think you can change his mind? I don't care about my father, Naali replied. I care about the truth, and I think he's hiding something bigger than us. That's why he tried to erase me. Damon frowned. What do you mean? Naali reached into her travel cloak and pulled out a tiny black hexagonal shard. Its edges shimmered faintly with pulses of violet energy. This, she said, holding it between her fingers, is the real reason he wanted me silent. What is it? A fragment of the Kavalan core. It's an artifact from before even the Council's time. It shouldn't exist, but it does, and I found it buried beneath the ocean city of Ace Moral during a diplomatic tour last year. Terra, he inhaled sharply. You said it was a legend. Yeah, so did Father, Naali said, until he confiscated the rest of the fragments and declared them state secrets. I smuggled this one out. He didn't know, and he thinks I'm still in cryosleep. Damon felt the weight of the moment press against his chest. Why would he go through all that to keep this secret? Because, Naali said slowly, the Kavalan core doesn't just contain energy, it contains history, memories, records of ancient decisions, and one of those records contradicts the very origin of Varelian royal blood. The room fell into stunned silence. What do you mean? Damon asked. Naali met his gaze. Our bloodline isn't divine. It's fabricated, genetically engineered by the ancestors of the Kavalan order to control population unity after a civil war. The myths about our royal purity are lies. Damon staggered back slightly. So your father's entire power structure would collapse if this got out. Terra, she finished her voice almost reverently, that's why he separated us. Not because I loved a human, but because I was starting to question everything. Damon sat down hard on the stone bench, the firelight throwing his shocked expression into flickering relief. This is bigger than us. Exactly, Naali said. For a long time, none of them spoke. Then Tra said, you'll need to expose the core. Naali nodded. And I need Damon to do it. He blinked. Me? You're already marked with disgrace. You have no rank to lose, no royal blood to disgrace. If anyone finds the truth, it should be someone without a crown. Damon rubbed his face. I'm not a hero, Naali. I'm not a spy. I fix soil filtration tubes. You were the only one who treated me like a person, she said, stepping close. You looked me in the eyes and loved what you saw. That's what they fear. His heart swelled and broke at the same time. I'll do it, he said quietly. But I want one thing first. She tilted her head. What? I want to dance with you once before it all burns. Tra rolled her eyes and turned away. I'll stand guard. They danced beside the fire, their bodies moving slowly in silence, no music, just the rhythm of breath and memory. She rested her head against his shoulder, and he spun her gently like she was made of light. Even if the world ended the next day, Damon knew he would carry that moment forever. They left before dawn. The plan was dangerous: upload the fragment's contents to the universal beacon array embedded in Earth's satellite net. It would reach every Varelian-linked archive in the quadrant. It would be irreversible. They climbed through forgotten metro tunnels beneath the Seattle core, where rusted rails whispered old stories. Terra hacked into power lines with uncanny ease. Damon was impressed, and a little unsettled by how quickly she navigated military-grade encryptions. Naali walked beside him, close but quiet, the shard pulsed in her hands. When they reached the control room of the beacon array, the wind howled through broken panels. Above them, the satellite dish leaned like a giant listening ear. We do this now, Tra said. The longer we wait, the more likely the envoy finds us. Damon nodded and took the shard. It was warm, almost alive. He stepped to the central console and activated the sequence. The display flickered, symbols, ancient, glowing, cascaded across the screen. The system recognized the fragment's data. Then the warning flashed, data irreversible. Proceed. He looked back at Naali. She nodded. He pressed yes. The dish above them groaned and began to move. A beam of light shot skyward. The file had been sent. And then the air behind them shattered with the sound of a dimensional rupture. Their shadow envoy had arrived. Figures in black stepped from the rift, their movement soundless, their weapons humming with cold energy. Damon shoved Naali behind him. Terra screamed, drawing a plasma blade and leaping forward, but the first bolt struck her shoulder and threw her against the wall. Damon grabbed a steel pipe and swung at the nearest attacker. The blow connected, sparks flew, but the figure didn't fall. They weren't trying to kill, they were trying to erase. Naali stepped forward, her hands raised. Stop. You're too late. The truth is out. The lead envoy froze, then lowered his weapon, and for a moment, just a breath, the silence stretched too long. Then the unthinkable happened. The lead envoy removed his helmet, and beneath the black armor was Naali's father, Chancellor Varian. I warned you, he said softly. You're too late, Naali whispered. It's done. Varian looked at Damon, then at his daughter, his expression unreadable, and then he said something Damon would never forget. No, you did exactly what I needed you to. Damon froze. The man behind the armor, Varian, Chancellor of the Velian Empire, stood with his helmet tucked under one arm, silver eyes piercing, calm as still water. But Damon could see it, the storm behind those eyes. You did exactly what I needed you to, Varian said again. Naali stared, stunned. You wanted us to upload the truth. Her father nodded. Of course. Terra, still slumped against the wall, groaned and pulled herself upright. That makes no damn sense. It makes perfect sense, Varian said. My empire is rotting. The bloodline myth is a prison. I needed a way to burn it down without holding the torch myself. You're lying, Naali whispered. He said, tilting his head. You know how many times I tried to push for reform. The council laughed, the nobles closed ranks. I couldn't touch the myth without unraveling the structure that holds our people together. And so you used me, she spat. I trusted you, he said sharply. I trusted that your heart would lead you to the right decision. And it did. You fell in love with a human. You discovered the truth. You did exactly what the galaxy needed. You cryofroze me, she said, to protect you. He answered, voice quiet, the moment the council discovered what you were carrying, they issued an assassination order. I did the only thing I could, I sealed you away and spread a rumor of exile. They believed I cast you out. And now the truth is everywhere. He turned toward the horizon. Too fast to contain, too loud to silence. Damon stepped forward. You want credit for this? No, Varian said, turning to face him. I want you to be the face of it. Damon blinked. What? I need a symbol, a bridge. Someone the council can't touch without sparking revolt. You're human. You're untouchable now. You want him to be your puppet. Naali, growled Varian. I want him to be a catalyst. You lit the fire. Now we have to shape the blaze. Damon looked between them, heart pounding. What happens if I say no? Varian looked at him with something that almost resembled regret. Then the chaos will spread without a center. Wars will erupt. Some will believe the truth, others will double down on the lie. It will tear systems apart. He paused. But if you say yes, then you become the reason we change. Naali stepped between them. You can't manipulate him like this. I'm not Varian, she said softer now, I'm asking as a father, as a leader. Silence only. The wind spoke for a while, brushing cold fingers through broken metal. Then Damon said, "Give us a moment." Varan nodded and stepped away. Naali turned to him, her eyes full of fire and pain. "You don't owe him anything. Don't let him twist you into his weapon." "I know," Damon said. "But maybe it's not about him. Maybe it's about what we can do with the truth now." Her voice cracked. "I don't want to lose you again." He smiled. "You won't." She shook her head. "If you do this, you become a symbol, a revolution. You'll be hunted, Damon, forever." "Maybe," he whispered, "but I'd rather be hunted for standing up than safe for staying silent." She exhaled shakily, then reached out and touched his face. "Then I stand with you." A week later, the galaxy changed. Damon's face was broadcast across Varillion-linked worlds, speaking calmly and clearly in a dozen translated tongues. He told the story, not just of a romance, but of a lie that had shaped an empire. He told the truth about the Kavlan core, about the fabricated bloodlines, about the myths that enslaved billions. He didn't use words like revenge or collapse, he spoke of freedom, of truth, of unity. And beside him, Naali stood, not as a princess, not as a fugitive, but as someone who had risked everything for love. They became the spark. Some worlds rebelled, others rejoiced. The council fractured, the myths cracked, and amid the chaos a strange, radiant hope bloomed. Damon and Naali disappeared from the spotlight after that, not because they were afraid, but because they had done their part. Years passed. A hidden cabin nestled in the green shadows of Earth's new Alps cradled a quiet life. The wind whispered through tall trees, and two suns, Earth's and Varel's, newly synchronized relay, bathed the valley in golden hue. Inside, Damon sat at a worn table cradling a warm drink. Across from him, Naali read a weathered book, her feet tucked under her. A child played on the floor, half human, half Velian, with eyes like starlight and a laugh that shook the room like joy itself. Peace, not the peace of silence, but the peace earned through fire. One day, the world would remember them, maybe build statues, maybe turn them into legends. But for now, Damon was content being what he was, not a symbol, not a soldier, just a man who had once fallen for a strange, beautiful woman from the stars and who had chosen to believe in her even when everything else begged him not to. And she, Naali, looked up from her book, caught his eye, and smiled. The kind of smile that said, "Yes, we survived, and we are free."